Yes. Yes. So these, for the 5 last minutes, I will just give you some specific recommendations for your project pitch. So now that you know which public and private funders are active in your city or in your region, in your country, ideally, you need to present your pitch and your project convincingly. And that's why I'm going to give you some tips to prepare a compelling pitch. So if we go to the next slide, it's the pitch has 5 different steps that you will corresponding to the 5 slides that will be shared with you by the program managers of the SGAC program. So you need to start, of course, with an introduction, which is also called the elevator pitch. During this introduction, you need to introduce yourself and also tell a story to get your audience's attention. It is also called the hook by some partners. In general, you explain how you decided to prioritize one project idea over another, and you also present some of the challenges your project is addressing in your city. And you need to highlight how that this challenge is very pressing and very important. And some of my recommendation for this part is to avoid text-heavy slides because you need to captivate your audience. So I would rather, during this presentation, show images of the challenge you are trying to address and show some striking figures. So for example, if your project relates to flooding, then you will have some pictures of the floods that happened in your city recently, and show some figures of the effects of the floods. If you go to the next slide, the second step is to present the solution and demonstrate how this solution is particularly adapted to address the challenges you've presented in the previous slide. So again, you can emphasize on the process that led you to prioritize this solution, on the expertise you've mobilized to identify this project internally and externally. And as part of the SGAC program, you had several partners who assisted along the way. But I would recommend not to oversell, and not to provide unclear figures, which means that you just stay factual. You don't need to demonstrate that your solution is the best ever. Just try to be very factual. If you go to the next slide. Yes, if you go to the next slide, the third step is to highlight the expected goals and impacts of your project, not only for the expected goals, not only for your cities, but also more broadly. So these impacts are not only economic impacts, economic benefits, but also social impacts, environmental impacts, and also, as I said, just demonstrate that it will benefit your citizens, but that it will be also aligned with the national priorities, and also to the global climate, in your case, especially the climate and development priorities and agenda. And you need to demonstrate here also that you have the internal capacity to lead such project, that your team has the expertise and knowledge and potentially past experience, and rely on their past experience to demonstrate that these projects will finally be implemented, and and that the partners need to trust you. Then if you go to the next slides, the fourth step is to present your business model. So we've already discussed the importance of the business model, especially for private investors. But again, just show that my advice is to show that you have thought about some of the risks of this business model, but that you already have a strategy to mitigate those risks. To, of course, give estimates of your project budget, if you can, in dollars or in euros, but also in local currency, just to, if you are presenting these slides to an international audience, which will be the case in as part of SGAC. And do make sure to double and triple check your budget, because you will, if you are dealing with bankers, with financiers, they will notice if your budget is not clear or specific enough. And as mentioned, you can share as many information as you want on your business model, but still trying to be very concise. The indicator on the revenue generation, the overview of revenue streams over the life of the project, and as I said, the risk assessment. If you go to the next slide, that's the last slide, and you need to end your pitch with a clear and concise ask. What you need to explain what kind of technical and financial support you request, from who, and what for. So if you need support to develop a pre-feasibility study or a feasibility study, make it clear and add the budget that you need. And if you need support throughout the project life cycle, just highlight the different types of support you need throughout at different stages. This part is very important, this very last slide, because it will be the basis it will be it will form the basis of your conversation with the financiers. If you go to the next slide, I'm just summarizing in one slide, in a nutshell, what do you need to prepare a good pitch? First, you need to structure your pitch in advance, and you will be provided with the template and the slides to do so. You need to make your pitch compelling, be convincing, be ready, and be prepared. Then you need to know your audience and tailor your pitch to the priorities of your audience. So we talked about it in the first part and second part of this presentation. And then you need to also, if you had pitched your project before, learn from rejections, meaning you need to also learn every single time you make this pitch. When you receive comments from financiers, do take this into consideration and share that with your team, because you will need to pitch it several times until you find the right partner. And yes, and in the private sector, they are doing this all the time to pitch to several partners, and eventually one day you find the right partner, but you need to be very you really need to you need to make sure not to discourage along the way, because it's a long journey. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to meeting with all of you in person.